Welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom First podcast. I have no idea what episode it is because that doesn't really matter. It's going to be about the wisdom and truth that we reveal while we're here. And I have a very, very special guest, Coach Mariah, otherwise known as Mariah Miller, which is one of the coaches on our teams at Kingdom First. For those of you who don't know, Coach B is one of our coaches, and then we have Coach Mariah as well. So, Coach Mariah, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
Doing great, doing great. I'm excited to have Mariah, guys. For those who don't know, anybody that is a part of our team, Coach B and Coach Mariah, they were the best clients that I've ever had, and then they worked themselves up to a coaching position. So not only do they coach people now, but they also before that went through the process. Like they completely transformed their life. And throughout today's episode, my only goal with Mariah is I want to hear about her walk of her life, kind of how she got to where she is now, and exactly kind of the work that she gets to do and what she has her hands involved in now with her coaching company. So, Mariah, I'm going to pass it over to you. My biggest question for you to start off is like, I want to hear about like your walk with Jesus as a young kid. Were you raised in a Christian home? Were you not raised in a Christian home? Like, just kind of talk. You can go back as far as you would like.
Okay. So, yeah, my childhood, I was exposed to church like really early. We went to church as a family. Now, granted, my parents weren't always the most consistent. So, I remember being in the church scene like really young, kind of like getting saved, like going through the motions of what they would want you to do, like at church camp, that kind of thing. Um, but it wasn't until I was in, gosh, probably my early 20s that I started going back to church again. At that point, my parents had invited me back. And it wasn't that I didn't not believe in God, but at the same time, I was doing things I shouldn't do and not, walking like I should. And I didn't want to like hear about it. I would just like push it kind of like to the back of my head. And my mom's like, no, you really need to come hear this guy. Like he's really good. And I like white knuckled, like I did not want to go. And I can remember being, I don't know, I was like 21 when I rededicated my life. And from that point, it's just kind of been like a growth process. Like every time that I think that I have, I'm where I'm supposed to be, he always reveals like the next level. So I feel like definitely gotten closer in the last 5 or so years of my life. But yeah, kind of had that exposure, just never fully committing to it until I was an adult.
Got it. So kind of similar story, right? As in like, because there's this thing that I'm obsessed with about walking with Jesus. And it's like, we can go to church, we can claim Christianity, but there's a whole different situation of having a personal, intimate relationship with Jesus, right? So what I'm hearing is like, you're kind of raised in the church home, like a lot of people, but you never truly had like an actual personal relation, like a personal, intimate relationship with Jesus. Is that true?
Right. Like, and I feel like not so much that the culture I was in was wrong, but it was very much so like the church that I was in when I was younger was look a certain way, like be a certain way. And there was never like room to learn what happens like in real life. Like if I do this, then what? It was kind of just like check these boxes, do these things, and then you're good. But if I never checked the box, then I would just feel like I was hopeless. So I just said, screw it. And I'm like, I don't want to check the boxes anymore. So I stopped
For
until
the, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say until yeah, I mean literally he had to come and just like smack me upside the head is essentially what happened because of the situations that I found myself in my life. That's kind of when he comes in and I'm like, okay, now I have this choice to either accept, the condemnation that I put on myself, or I can lean into what he's telling me to do. And then yes, it's gonna be conviction, but ultimately when I change, then I see that, he was with me the whole time,
Mhm.
despite what church culture wanted me to believe about myself.
100%. And I like what you're explaining is like the whole religious thing, right? Like check the boxes, like look this way, talk this way. And it's funny because like, the work we do now, we're obviously the complete opposite of that. And
Yeah.
anytime people like share that with me, I get so excited because like if we just look at the story of Jesus, it's like those are the only people. Like Jesus didn't hate anybody, but the only people that he put on blast was the religious people, were the people checking the boxes, were the people. And it's so funny to me like how that happened 2000 years ago, and like somehow we're still raised in today, and there's all this Christian culture that is literally like walking the same walk as the Pharisees. And it's like, have you opened your Bible like that? Like, how do you not see that,
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
mean, it was literally to the point of being like, "Hey, you're not wearing this to church today, so now we're gonna like have to have a word with you because you didn't wear this certain thing to church." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the culture that I was from."
what did that do for you personally behind closed doors about like the whole Jesus concept? Were you kind of like tell me like what did that do for you personally?
Well, for me, I can just remember having a conversation with my mom. I was literally like, "Why can I not?" It was summertime. I'm like, "Why can I not wear shorts to church?" Because I mean, I was at that point in time, I was doing youth group. I was like, "I want to go be involved, but it's hot." Like functionality wise, it was useful to wear shorts. And she's like, "No, no, you can't do that." But nobody could ever like explain to me why you couldn't. And
Hmm.
for me, it was like, okay, so we're just gonna follow like all these stuffy rules and go by what these people say, but they can't really explain why you're doing what you're doing. So I don't know. I am not not gonna say I break rules all the time intentionally, but like if somebody can't give me the context as to why I do what we're doing, then my brain automatically wants to be like, no, we're not doing that. No. So then that created friction, like, with me and my parents, and that just kind of like led to future decisions that I shouldn't have made. But ultimately, like full circle on everything, the decisions that I made that weren't right ultimately led me to where I'm at now. So I'm grateful in hindsight for the things that happened.
I love that perspective. There's this quote that I'm fascinated with. It's like there's no present without the past, right? Like you think, and we're going to get into this, like the work that we get to do together now, without all those experiences, like you're not sitting here today. So that is the cool part. And I think, and we're going to get into more of your fitness story too. But like, if anybody could take anything away from what Mariah just said, is like no matter what you've been, like there's no excuses or victimhood from the things that you were raised or like what you went through. It's like, no, that's literally exactly why you are who you are today, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
So we'll transition real quick. We're going to kind of be Jesus and fitness, which is what we always are, right? Like, talk to me now about Mariah's health and fitness from a young kid up until the 20s. Like, let me just you start as far back as you want. Like, were you raised in a healthy home? Did you guys eat healthy? Like, tell me about all that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Absolutely not raised in a healthy environment. I mean, granted, we were, I guess what you would say like is the norm, right? Like my family is mostly overweight, which is kind of like statistically the thing. I can remember like kind of being oblivious to those things. Like it never really crossed my mind as a kid. I wasn't really worried about it. I mean, I was in a good environment. I was a happy kid, whatever you want to say. But the very first time that I ever questioned my appearance, I was with my mom at work. She used to deliver newspapers, and I would go and just like go pick them up with her and ride with her when she would take them places. And she had went inside to go pick up her stuff, and there was a guy that was outside of his car waiting for his that he needed to send out, and I was kind of hanging out by my mom's car. And so, you picture this 8-year-old kid, because this is 8-year-old me, an adult man, and the man looks at me and he goes, honey, I think you're probably like 40 pounds overweight, wouldn't you say? And my mom wasn't there, so it's me and this guy. And for the first time in my life, I was like, dang, like maybe I'm like not acceptable. Like maybe I'm ugly, maybe I'm big, maybe I'm whatever. And
Mm.
from that point, like that kind of sat with me, right? And now, did I do anything about that? Like, no. As a kid, I didn't. I mean, I just kind of like kept feeling shame on the inside, but never like fully committing to doing anything. Cause I mean, I'm 8, and then like progressively getting older. Now, once I got to I want to say it was middle school years, and like the teasing at school started happening and that kind of stuff, I really went the opposite way. So I went from, kind of just eating whatever I wanted and, using food for a comfort or a pleasure thing to now I'm not going to eat anything. And I would run all the time and I would like do like things that I thought were me working out. Like, you have the cardio videos and all that stuff. And
Mhm.
um, I basically ate nothing. And every time that I did eat something, I felt shame. So I lost a bunch of weight. Yeah. I mean, I was basically a stick at that point. But did it feel good to do that? No, I did it because that's what I thought people wanted me to look like.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that was like the younger part. Um, Skipping over a little bit, kind of went back up in weight because life happened in between there, relationships. And then kids happened, and
I want to pause you
that
real quick because I don't want this to
yeah,
get over. Like, I love where you're heading with all this. How old were you
yeah,
when you did that the first time? Was that middle school, you said?
yeah, middle school, and then yeah, middle school is when I got really, really small.
Okay.
Stayed small for, yeah, I would say until like my 20s or so. But yeah,
So all the way
that
through high
restrictive.
school, do you
Mhm.
live that restrictive from middle school throughout high school?
Yeah, like I'll give you an example. Okay. So
Please.
I remember going to, gosh, we went to Golden Corral. This is when that was still around. And I can remember being with my grandpa. He had came in, he lives like states away. And he came in and he wanted to have ice cream. Okay. Now I have a different, like a totally different opinion about that situation. But at the time, I was like, I can't have any. Like, I can't enjoy it right now. Like, I'm not going to do that. And I can remember him, like, it almost like makes me emotional thinking about it. But like, he brought me, like one of those little, like the ketchup little, like, cut, like the little paper cups. He
Hmm.
brought me one of those and put just like, just like a little pinch of sprinkles on them because he wanted me to be able to enjoy that. And now I did, but I felt guilty about that. Like, that's where my headspace was at that point.
Mm. That's like deep rooted stuff, then, as we're going to get into later. But that's
Yeah.
the cool part about that, Mariah. Number one, I've never like heard the actual details of that story, but I think what's so cool is that's going to resonate with whoever listens to this podcast. That's what's cool is this goes out to literally the world. But so many people are going to resonate with that. I think specifically from the women's side of you, the women's point of view, because just culture in general, it's like women are kind of like bullied, for lack of a better term, into like being smaller, like being skinnier, all those different things. So middle school, 8 years old or so, you had the adult situation. Middle
Mhm.
school, you're like, oh, well, like I can like lose weight and shame myself into losing weight essentially by just not eating. Now that led you all the way through high school until kids.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. In between that time frame, there were like some relationships. I was with a guy who was a chef. So that was kind of the
Hmm.
beginning of the downhill the other way because I mean, food was his thing. So I mean,
Yeah.
we ate lots of stuff that we, went overindulged. So that kind of created that. But then, yeah, I just got to a point where I stopped hyper focusing on that. And then, met Landry, my husband. We got married and he was, we just didn't prioritize it. We didn't, prioritize fitness. We just kind of, we were happy. And I was just kind of complacent, good with where I was at. And
Hmm.
that's what led to the like continual gaining from that point.
So to unpack this, how did you go from, I'm just going to call it skinny shame, right? You shame yourself into being skinny, to just kind of like the chef and just kind of like eating whatever you want. Like, what was the gap for that? Was it just like, hey, I'm happy and content now. Somebody cares about me now. You're not trying to earn
Yeah.
something. Like, talk to me.
Yeah. I think it was like, seeking, like before I was seeking validation. And then when you find somebody
Mm.
that does validate you on a continual basis, you're just kind of like, okay, like but at the same time, I may be getting ahead of myself, but like you're getting validation from external sources. And that's like good in that moment. Like that's what I was accepting. And
Hmm.
it's like, okay, like I'm good. I'm happy, good enough where I'm at. And then, yeah, that was kind of like my life, I would say, for like 10ish years, maybe 8 years,
Hmm.
something like that.
Good enough. We talk about that a lot with our clients. We talk about it a lot in mindset. And I want to hang out and camp out there for a second. So you were in a good enough stage in your life for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a really important part for so many people to hear because there's a lot of people listening to Mariah right now that are in a good enough stage in their life. They're just going through the motions. They have kids or a family. Maybe they're married, maybe they're not. They're working a good job. They got a roof over their head. Jesus loves them, right? They, no matter what. And they're going through these motions of life. And it's like, where did good enough lead Mariah in her life? Like, I want to hear where that led you.
So I think that there's another part I should put in there too. It's like good enough. Like I was happy in my situation, but there were instances like we would go on vacation and that was always like I would dread like, am I gonna have to wear a bathing suit? Am I have to
Mm,
buy one? Like all of that. Like that was kind of looming, I guess, but it never was enough to be like, oh now you really need to change, right? So there was that. But it was just not feeling good about myself, going to people that were like trusted people, right? That were in my circle at the time, who in hindsight, I wish they would have been like, this is what you need to do for yourself. But I mean, they said it from a place of like caring about me, right? Like, I know that. But at the same time, I would allow what they said to be like, okay, like I'm good enough. Then I would just have to like constantly be like re-seeking that, assurance from my husband or whatever. And at the same time, over time, it just wasn't enough. And I started like feeling kind of hopeless about myself. But it also ties into kids. And I know that we're kind of like taking it in stages. So I don't want to like I keep trying to get too far ahead of myself.
It's okay, and we could like bouncing back and stuff, and that's like we talked about this before, Mariah. Like, there's no edits in this. Like, I don't like stage podcasts. Like, this is a real conversation. That's what this is about. So like, it's all good. So keep that in mind. I
Yeah.
think you hit on a couple really important things, right? And it's so often in life we just lie to ourselves, because here it is. Mariah says, and I'm not talking specifically to you. I'm talking about us as human nature. We've all done it. I'm like in this good enough stage. Yet that was a lie, because every time a vacation would come up, every time like you probably wanted to wear something that you truly wanted to wear, you're just like, oh my gosh. And the reason that I want to bring that up is because that secretly eats at our souls, right, as human beings. And I think that's like the good enough in and of itself is a lie for all of us. We all tell ourselves that we're good enough, meaning, hey, we're not actually stepping into our God-given potential, which is what we talk to our clients and ourselves all the time now. So just something to keep in mind as well. But as you go through this good enough stage in your life, like when was the wake up call for you? When were you just like, all right, I like have to do something? Like, what changed?
So this is where it gets interesting. And this is where like the kids come into play, right? So I had all of my kids are like little stair steps. They were born like within a few years of each other. And being postpartum with the third one, I don't know what was different. I never had any issues with the other two, but my mental state was absolute trash. And I mean, we also had a lot of other things going on. We can get into that later, but two of my kids have special needs. So we were kind of like navigating the beginning stages of those things. Also having the third baby in the mix. And it was like an ultimate, like, not recognizing myself when I looked in the mirror, like, just being like, how the heck did you get here? Like, I knew it was getting bad, but like, not being able to even like look yourself in the eye was like, it was really sad. And I don't know, like my mental state was awful. I would be at home with my kids because I was a stay-at-home mom at that point. So it would be me and them all day. Like, and I just noticed like I was really like snappy with them. I would be, angry externally, but I couldn't really like get out what was going on because it was all happening like internally. And that led to guilt. And the guilt is what started, having me these thoughts come up that were like, your family doesn't need somebody that is going to be like this all the time. You're no good for your family. Your husband, you're no good for him. Like all of this together. And I mean, it was so bad that I can remember having a conversation with Landry and telling him that I didn't know if I could live anymore. Like I didn't want to live anymore if I was going to be in that boat. And of course that scared him and it scared me. I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. And yeah, I don't know. I just remember having a conversation with God one day and I was like, I literally cannot continue to function where I'm at. Like, I'm not going to make it because it was so bad.
So to the point of like just not wanting to live anymore. And I think like some of the things that you said are super important. So you obviously postpartum, obviously I've never had a baby, but obviously that's a huge change for somebody's life, right? But you said something like, I want you to touch more on like your kids' situations. Like, I want to hear more about that, because I think that's important not to leave out about the not only the stair step, but like all that stuff combined with letting your physical health go.
Okay. Yeah. So at this point in time, we were having my middle son evaluated for autism. We, have gotten answers on that. He is autistic. But when you're in that seeking answers and feeling like you're crazy, it's a lot. So we were in the thick of all of that, trying to get that stuff squared away. At the same time, my oldest, my daughter, she started having seizures when she was 2. So we were at that point, we were like a year and a half in. We were still trying to figure out what type that she was having. A lot of doctors were telling me that she didn't actually have epilepsy. They were trying to throw in that she had a behavioral disorder. But the confusing part to me was that when she had seizures, it always revolved around when she was asleep. So, like, either when she was coming out of sleep or going to sleep. And being that she was asleep and I would be asleep, you can imagine the mental toll that that took, like being able to just like rest at night because I was worried about her. And then you throw in, a new baby with all of their needs being brand new, and it was just like so much at one time. And if it's okay with you, I'll give you another example of like the lowest of the
Go,
low
go.
day. Okay, so worst day of my life, literally. um Avon, my youngest, he was like probably 2 months old at this point, and my oldest, she had woken up in a seizure, which she did quite often at that point because they weren't under control. I'm trying to like get her situated, like trying to, because they always want you to wait a certain amount of time. It's like 5 minutes after you give emergency medicine to call 911. I'm trying to find said emergency medicine, and I realized that it was in my car. My autistic son was in the house. We've had this like big old like ranch style house. So it was long, and going back and forth took forever, it felt like. Um, but I had put my youngest one, who was crying, in his bouncy seat because I'm like, oh, he's the only one that doesn't actually need anything right now. Like, we'll put him here. He's gonna be okay for a minute. And I run out to get the emergency medicine from my car. Well, at that time, we had like one of those touch, like the keypad locks on the door. And I forgot to actually hit the lock button, so it wasn't locked. Well, I give my daughter her emergency medicine. I'm kind of like waiting. She's still not coming out of the seizure. So I have to be I'm like on the phone with 911, walking around the house. And I realized that my middle son is not in the house. So I'm like walking up and down this long house. And I get out to the door where the keypad is. And I realize that it's cracked just a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh, like he opened the door. And sure enough, I go outside. I'm on the phone with 911, and my autistic son is in the middle of the street. And I run out to grab him, and I'm running back in, and I'm telling you, like, baby's still crying in the bouncy seat. Emran's having a seizure in one room. I'm holding my autistic son, like crying with him. And the walls in the room, like everything started getting black, and it like was closing in on me. And I know like was it was a panic attack, like it had to be.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, I was like, if you don't change something to where your mental state is better, to where you can, like think clearer, feel better, it was all tied up together. I was like, you have to change something or you're
Mm-hmm.
literally not going to make it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very important story. I'm glad that you shared that. And I think what I love about how like having a relationship with Jesus, whether we're like intimate with him at the point, he takes us all to like the end of ourselves. And like, that's what I hear there, like the end of Mariah's strength. Like you've been white
Hmm.
knuckling your life, like being a mom, not taking care of yourself, not prioritizing all these things. And then that happens. It's like, it's this massive wake up call for you. And I think what's really cool about that story, Mariah, is humans like to make excuses for their lives, right? It's kind of a human trait that disgusts me, and all humans do it. We all justify things and all these. And what you just described there with your life, your kids, having the babies, trying to navigate like what is wrong with my kids, getting tests, all those things done. You were in the perfect seat to make excuses for not taking care of your health and fitness. He's like, oh, I got all these things going on. Was that something that played in your head sometimes of like, I know I need to change my life, but it's like I just have all this stuff going on.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, schedule wise, I'd be like, I can't fit it in anywhere. And then there was this mom guilt thing, which I actually have a lot of conversations now about that with people because it's a real thing. Like you think, oh, if I spend an hour, working out, doing something for myself, it's like taking away from time, with my kids. And I fell into that trap for a while. Of course, we know that's not true,
Mm-hmm.
but that's that's exactly what I believed for a long time.
Yeah, and I think once again, it's like excuses can be valid, right? Like you say those things out loud, of course. Like, yeah, that sounds good, but it's like we just, like you said, you just know it's not true. So like we're gonna call that like the Damascus Road moment, like that Saul had in the transformation into Paul. So that was like Mirage. We all, hopefully have that at some point in our lives. But so from that day forward, like let's just kind of transition, like what like how did you get here, like what how did you get here, like from that point to like I need to change your life? How is Mariah and Trey now sitting on this podcast talking, and now that you get the ability to coach people from all over the world. Like, I want you to kind of start at square one of how Mariah got from there to here.
Okay. Yeah, so in this conversation with God, telling him that I need something to change. Like I literally can't be in the boat that I'm in anymore. Um, I was on social media one day scrolling, and I come across an ad for a gym, and there was a 6-week challenge, and I was like, this gym is local to me. And I'm like, I didn't even know that there was a gym in Denton besides the one you go and work out yourself. And I was like, huh. So they're offering classes, 6-week challenge. And I was like, hmm. And I'm telling you, like, I know the voice of the Holy Spirit, and I swear, like, the voice was like, what if you tried it this time and like you actually made it? Because I had like tried things on my own like this. I wasn't new to the concept of starting a journey, but it was there. And I was like, I've never, like, to this point, like, I had never heard him say anything about fitness to me before. And I was like, maybe so. So, we go in and met with you, and me and my husband, like, we started it together. And yeah, that first 6 weeks, I was just hooked after that. And it was just like this continual growing process, right? Like, yes, I lost weight. Yes, I got stronger. Like, all of that's great. But my mindset, the identity that I once had of like looking at myself and not knowing who I was, has come really full circle from that moment. And yeah, getting to transition from client to actually coaching people, it's the most rewarding thing because I feel like now everything that happened to me before, like down to the things with the kids, because I've had amazing conversations with people that have actually been in very similar boats. And I'm like, okay, now it makes sense. Like, this is what God had planned the whole time when I thought he was so far away. And yeah, it's the best. I don't even know. Just grateful.
I'm gonna go back. Mariah's humble, but like to talk about the 6 week challenge. So for those of you who don't know, I owned the gym for 6 years in our small community before we took everything online. And Mariah and her husband came in there, signed up for the 6 week challenge, invested, made a big financial investment in themselves. And Mariah was literally the best transformation that we've had. When I tell you guys, Mariah, like, we told her to do something, she did it, like, point blank, period. And that's why, like, we have a ton of transformations now that pop up from all over the world, but Mariah's to this day still stands the test of time as one of the best. But not because she's special, because like, it's really like a prompting from God, like, hey, you need to go work on this thing. And she took it seriously, and she's like, okay, these are the people to guide me. I'm going to submit to the people that's guiding me. I'm going to do the work. And she did have one of the most absolute insane transformations. And I know I talked about this at the start, but Brandon was the same way. He's one of the best clients ever, and how he got to a coaching position. But I think what's even cooler about that process that I want to ask you, Mariah, because me and you relate a lot on this, because you were like reading Instagram stories before you ended up coming into the gym. Let's talk about like the voice that guides you, right? And we call that voice the Holy Spirit. Like, people can call it whatever they want, but the voice that guides us, the voice that's always trying to nudge us in the right direction, that course corrects, that allows us to speak things that we're like, wow, how did that come out of my mouth? That, those kind of things. What happened to the voice that guides you, i.e., the Holy Spirit, when you were not taking care of yourself to the point of you started being really disciplined? Did it get more clear? Did you get more guidance? Was it worse? Like, tell me about it.
For sure. Yeah. When I was at the worst of the worst points for me, that was, I think, one of the most frustrating things was that I couldn't hear him anymore. And
Mm.
I would like be seeking to hear it. And I was like literally begging him. I'm like, just tell me what to do, like, talk to me. And he wouldn't for a long time. And then you kind of go into this state of being like, well, he doesn't care about me anymore. And I believed that lie for a long time until, like, one of the first times that he had given me direction was literally to tell me to go and do the 6-week challenge. Like, that was one of the first times I'd heard from him in a long time. And I was like, okay, well, I'm hearing from you now, and I'm not gonna like take that for granted because I know what it's like to not have that.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk to everybody about what really happened there, because I'm so passionate about this. Maybe some to the point where it's like I can kind of come off a little aggressive about it sometimes. But what Mariah is explaining there is a real reason for that. So God composed us of three things, like the human system, right? We have our soul, we have our spirit, and we have our body, right? Our spirit is what we communicate to God with. Our body is quite literally our body, and our soul is made up of our mind, our will, and our emotions. So when Mariah said, and we see it all the time in our clients, hey, I don't hear from God anymore. I don't hear from Jesus. And he never went anywhere, right? But when we mismanage our soul, we lose the ability to hear from him, because our soul is defined as our mind, our will, and our emotions, right? So our mind, right, when it's a wreck because we have poor will, the ability to make decisions, i.e., not taking care of ourselves, not being disciplined, and being riddled by our emotions, our soul is like pointed this way and our spirit's right here. And God's like sitting here talking to you, to all of us, but our soul is way over here. So when Mariah says she didn't hear from God anymore, it's super important that like we didn't do any magical work or like voodoo stuff to like put God inside somebody. Literally, it's like our systems, guys, are like antennas, right? And unfortunately, some Christians in life, antennas are turned to the wrong station, right? And Mariah was living through a phase, and I've been there too. Your antennas turned to the wrong station, where you get the station turned back by aligning the alignment process of your soul to your spirit. Then all of a sudden, you're like, wow, I hear Jesus again. This is so cool. Mariah, how many times do we hear that from our clients now?
A lot. Yeah, I hear it on the regular, which is amazing because I know exactly what that's like. And it just, yeah, makes me excited for them.
So if anybody's listening here today and you're just like, wow, like I love Jesus, but I'm not taking care of my body. I feel like he's not there. I'm like in church and worshiping, and I just feel empty inside. Number one, I want you to know Jesus loves you to death, and he never went anywhere. But number two, I want you to know there's a practical reason why, and they're not going to teach you this at church. I'm sorry, I wish they would, right? But maybe that's just why that's our role and why God has put this calling upon us. Um, but there is a way to tune your antenna back, and it's taking care of your soul, meaning getting your mind and your emotions and your will in check. And the simplest way to do that is to lose the extra body fats, just to get disciplined and not make fitness your idol, but to start taking care of yourself again. And just like Mariah and all of us, you'll be like, wow, like the voice that guides me is now clearer and better than it's ever been. And if a true believer and follower of Christ is listening to this, that should be more important than you than anything, of like hearing that voice, of getting that guidance, of getting that correction. Because if we pause and just hang out there for a second, we're talking about the creator of the freaking universe is communicating with you. That is the coolest thing ever, that like God is prompting you. And it's like, if you can't hear that, it's heartbreaking. It's like, what the heck? Like, and if there's anything that we can do to change that ability, it's like, then we should 100% do it. So if you guys are in that spot, Mariah or any of the clients Mariah coach or I coach now, it's like there is a system, and we can actually explain why that is the way it is. For a long time, I couldn't. I was just like, we just keep getting people in shape and they just love Jesus more. I don't really know what's going on. But as I so often do behind closed doors, try to go really deep spiritually, I'm like, how can we like practically, explain this to people? So it's so cool to see that, Mariah experienced that, but then see all these other people experience it. But we're gonna like go back on something else real quick. I just didn't want to overlook that. Mariah, talk to me about like when you wanted to be a coach with us. Like what happened there? Like to want to hear, people need to hear that story.
Okay. Yeah, that was another story. Another God story, actually. I don't know, like I remember going, so to kind of start, I guess I always try to get ahead of myself, but going back to being in classes, I had a workout partner, and one of the first things that I would notice is that she would like change her schedule to where she could come and work out with me because she always wanted to work out like with me. And I remember her telling me like, I do this because you motivate me, like you have this quality. I could see you being a coach. And at the time I was like, nah, like I don't, that's not me. Like I'm not brave enough to do that. Like I felt not equipped enough to do that. Um, and then that seed was kind of planted. And like the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, I really like this. Like I really enjoy fitness. I also enjoy like having the good conversations and motivating people. And I just became more attached to the idea. And I swear, like all the conversations that I have with God, like I'm driving down the road because I feel like I'm driving everywhere. But I am driving and I'm like, I really want to like talk to them about this, but I also don't know if I should. So you're gonna have to get them to like to bring it up to me. Like if it's your will, like it's gonna just kind of like the door's gonna open up. And I kid you not, like not even a week later, I was talking to Brandon about something random, and he brought up the fact that you guys had been talking about me coming on as a coach, and I was like, okay, like that. It was like just aligned the way that it was supposed to be, I guess, and it's really wild, like how much that he plays into that.
Mm-hmm. And I want to like really double down on that, Mariah. Like that's what, like, God always blesses obedience, right? Like I think about the voice that guided you to come into the gym and then make the financial investment and then do the work. Like he sees all that, like for all of us, man. And then not only for that, for you like to not take the opportunity and waste it, because you could have came in there like some people and lied and didn't do the work completely. And you're obedient in that process. And I just want everybody to hear that is like God sees your obedience, man. I'm telling you, like God sees your obedience, and then when you start communicating and have an open heart with Him, always, it's like, oh my God, like I asked God to, like, if they want me to be a coach, and it's like me and Brandon's like, yeah, like I think Mariah would be a good coach, and then we ended up, having her shadow and ended up hiring her to work at the gym facility for, I don't even remember how long we were there. When you came on board, but you coached a bunch of classes, worked with people in person, got a lot of good in person experience. And to the point, I think I kind of pulled you guys in the office. I was like, hey, we're shutting the gym down, but we're not shutting the gym down because business is bad. It's quite literally the opposite. We're shutting the gym down because, like, we're going to work with people all over the world. And now that's exactly what we do. And I think what's been really cool is what the work has turned into, you know? And I just want to like what do we do, Mariah? I want to hear it from your perspective. Like if somebody's like, hey, Mariah, like what do you do? Like what is the work that God allows us to do in this life? Because we're obviously not just fitness coaches, right? That's what really sets us apart.
Right. When I get asked about it, I always kind of lay out the framework that fitness is the gateway. Like that's what people are essentially looking for when they come in. But yeah, fitness is just like the gateway to changing your identity. And I think that, when they come in, it's like, yes, I want to lose, X amount of weight, or I want to build muscle. And like, yeah, we know all that stuff. But the way that it changes your mindset and the way that it changes your walk with God, it's crazy. And you come in thinking that you're going to just have physical results, but you become a different person in the process. Like you said, your soul changes. So it's hard to put it into words what we do, but I mean, it's literally just bringing somebody closer to God through the outlet of fitness.
100%. And it's kingdom work at the end of the day, I think.
Hmm.
And it just continuously evolves more and more into that as we submit and surrender to this. Like you hear me say it in the team meetings all the time. Like, this is God's business. This is my business. As the
Yeah.
founder of the company and the owner, I tell literally every employee of the company, I'm like, you're not my employee. Like, you're God's employee. Like, your number one job is listening to Him, not me. Straight up. And what a freeing thing that God has allowed us to have this thing. And it's really just stewardship. Mariah, we signed up 2 new clients today, and both of them they were just like spiritually broken. They're just like,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is literally one of their words were like, I am so plateaued spiritually, but not only that, I have this extra 70 pounds on me. And I hear that and I'm just like, ding, 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 ding. Like, here's another one. Like, freaking, like, they're going to be alive and woken up in the spirit of God, not because Trey, Mariah, and Brandon are doing some magician work, but because we're helping them get their soul back from the devil. I'm just going to say what it is. Like, when our bodies are lost like that in that comfort, that's all the enemy has to make you do is just stay comfortable and stay good enough. And man, I just hope that people that hear your story and hear this, like they stop overlooking it, because it is stuff you don't get taught in church. We have an amazing church, Palmetto Point in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Like, man, we were at Pentecost Sunday yesterday. If you've never been to church on Pentecost Sunday at a Pentecostal church, it was the coolest freaking experience ever. I'm still on fire from it today, right? But all that to say, if you look around at a totality of the population in there, most people are carrying an extra 50 to 70 pounds. They just are, and it's unfortunate. And that doesn't take away from any of the work the church is doing. Like, specifically that church, dude, the sermon was fire. The Holy Spirit is alive and present. But I think it's just such a cool space because I think it's just something that's super overlooked.
Yeah, for sure. It's
And
like, I
then
don't know, it's just putting all the pieces together.
it is, because anything, I've been on fire about this today, Mariah. I've made a video about it earlier. As followers of Christ, right? As believers, anything that steals our ability to witness to the world has to be worked on. Anything. The way that, whether it's the way that we dress, whether it's what our bodies look like, whether it's riding down the road listening to some kind of music like F this and F that. It's like, if somebody were to hear that and need to submit to the kingdom of heaven, right, and that were to hold it back, well, as brothers and sisters in Christ, we owe it to one another to call that out, because it's not about us. It's about lifting up Jesus, and it's about lifting up the kingdom. So I think that's just something that we all have to keep in mind, and doing it with grace and love is also very important. So we got through, and I don't want to miss this. We got through Mariah's like fitness story and the mom and all the mom guilt. I got one more question about that. Then I want to switch back to Mariah's spiritual walk. Okay.
Okay.
Mariah, as a mother, first off, I forgot to say this at the start. You're a freaking super mom. I mean, I really mean that. Like, you inspire me, and I don't ever want you to forget that. People see me as doing all these like big races and events and like the discipline guy. A mother to me who raises kids and still balances all these different things is one of the most inspiring things to me ever, as somebody who lost their mom who did not take care of their health. So I really want that to sink in, and I want other people to hear that as well. But like, what piece of advice, Mariah, would you give to the struggling mom right now that's like trying to do this by herself? She's tried everything. She's like behind closed doors. She like doesn't even want to live anymore. Like, Mariah, freaking speak to these women. Like, what would you tell them right now?
So I think that one of the biggest hurdles is overcoming the guilt. Because if you break it down, you're like, I care about my kids and I don't want to take away from some time that I would be doing something with them or something to like help my family. I know that the intentions are good in that. But I think that the switch for me, which is what I would want to bring to the table for anybody else who's like having that same like internal turmoil going on, is it's not me instead of, it's me too. And I had to
Mhm.
think of it that way. I show up for me so that I can pour back into them. And I don't know, just getting to that point where I could say that. And at first it didn't stick overnight. Like, it's something that you have to practice. The first several times that I did go and work out and my kids were with my mom or whatever the case was, like I did feel guilty about that. But the better that I started to feel when I would come home and be able to have more intentional time with them and feel in the moment, like present, that's when I was able to build on that. So you just kind of have to just keep taking the steps, even if it feels awkward at first.
Mhm. I love that. And then one more thing is what piece of advice would you give the mom out there that's tried it before and they failed time and time again?
So I think that tying it just to a physical outcome is where I failed a lot before. This is kind of where what we do comes into play when you're like not just looking at a weight or a size or whatever, and you start to really think about your identity and shifting that along with it is what really ties it all in together. And that's what made the difference for me.
I love that. I love that. So awesome, good stuff there. Mariah is the super mom on the team, so she does, yeah, coach alongside of us, and it's such a, yeah. We're just, man, we are so grateful, guys, for the work that we get to do. Like, I really can't put it into words. I kid you not, I get up every single day, Brian. Sometimes I'm just like in tears of gratitude. I'm just like, I can't believe this is our life. And I want to encourage anybody listening. What that came from, though, is like a lot of sacrifice, full submission to God, and also knowing this. And I say this in our meetings. I say this: if God wants this thing to shut down tomorrow, it's His. It'll shut down tomorrow, right? And I think so often people want to walk the Christian walk, or they want to like follow Christ, but they don't want to follow it at all costs. People will pray for things, but it's like, no, God, like, you can have all the money, you can have all the clients, you can have the business, you can have whatever, right? And God rewards that, guys. Like, I want everybody to know, like, that's the heart posture God rewards. Like, if you want more out of this life, it comes from not needing anything. You're just like, cool, I'll be homeless tomorrow. And that terrifies people to say it, but I mean that. Like, I will preach the gospel on the street tomorrow. And I'll be like, dude, I even have more power in preaching the gospel now, because I'm going to smile and not have nothing. Um, so just keep that in mind, guys. And then I'm going to flip back to, so Mariah's like spiritual walk, because Mariah just did something pretty massive in her life, in her spiritual walk, because somehow we baptize people too. So we baptized 11 people in last couple of months. So Mariah, talk to me now about like your baptism before, like this baptism, and like what God's really done in your heart, like in the recent, I would say, 3 months. Is that fair?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's been wild. Um, in the best way, but kind of going back to that culture that I grew up in. So that church was literally part of my life for, I mean, several years. Like I didn't transition out of that until I was well into adulthood. And back when Landry and I first got together, we were married and we were still in that same community. That is when I got baptized the first time. But at the same time, it was, I got saved or rededicated my life. They kind of, said the next step in this process is to get baptized. Once again, it was very like traditional, like nobody could really explain all of the ins and outs of it and like what it meant and all of this. So like I did it because I knew that I wanted to be as close to Jesus as I could at that point. But I think I didn't fully understand what it meant. Um, so that was, timeline wise, that was before like my lowest of low points, I guess, right? So like I was doing all the things like looked fine externally, but then I was having all this like inner turmoil going on, like to the point, like I said, where I was like, I don't want to live anymore. And that moment is probably when I felt like the farthest away from God. But then after that, him coming, changing my life through the disciplines and all that stuff we've talked about, building up to this point, I realized that before going through all of those things, I had, knowledge of him. I didn't have a relationship with him because I never had to like walk through things. And I was kind of like riding on like my parents' faith or like what the church community said was faith or whatever. I never had to like walk out the ugly faith. And once I learned that I had to do those things to become who I am, I was like, you know what? Now that I have my own testimony, my own story established at this point, I was like, now I want to take that, kind of like put a line in the sand, like, this is where you brought me from, and this is where I'm going to now. And that's kind of like the first step into wherever the heck I'm going at this point. And yeah, I'm really grateful that I had, like I said, all those things happen because it shaped who I am now. And it just really makes me excited for whatever it is that he's going to have me do after that.
I love that. And how, like, talk to me now about how was this baptism different for you, and what has that done from like a personal relationship with Jesus for you now?
I think it's just having the context of him meeting me in the darkness and like bringing me out of that. Like before, I could say, I've seen him do things for other people, or I know of the things that he does, but I never actually experienced that low point and him bringing me out of that for myself until those things happened in my story. And now I feel like I have that deeper connection with him, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, because I think this is another really important piece of like when we talk about like our walks with Christ. What's really cool, like Mariah and all the people that have been rebaptized, and even myself being rebaptized. The cool part about God is He always honors our current knowledge and heart posture, right? So like, I was baptized as a young kid and I didn't really know anything about God. Like He doesn't look down upon me for that, or like any of us when we were raising that. But when Mariah got rebaptized, or when I got rebaptized, or anybody that gets rebaptized, when you go into it with like this newfound heart posture, and you actually understand the weight of lifting Jesus up and honoring Him in your decisions and being a powerful witness, like that's like the magical baptism that you hear people talk about. Like I remember being a kid, Mariah, it's like people get baptized, like notice this like crazy experience, and I'm like, when I was a kid and got baptized, I literally just got wet in a pool. I was like, oh, that's cool. People like clapped. But when I got rebaptized a couple years ago by one of my mentors, shout out to Doug Cope. I don't know if he'll ever listen to this, but it would be cool if he did. It was an absolute pivotal point in my Christian walk. Not that I wasn't already like aggressively following Jesus, but I understood the weight, and it's really transformative for me.
Yeah, it's like staking, I don't know, for me, it was just like staking a claim. It's like I know what he's done for me. And now from this moment, I'm going to do everything in my power I know I can never, give back enough, but I want to use my life as sacrifice at this point because I know that he's done all of these things for me. And it's just out of gratitude.
100%. I think that's everything. And this is pretty cool how this worked out. So I'm reading this book right now. Do you know who John Piper is?
Hmm.
Okay, well, I didn't until here recently. And,
Okay.
for those who are listening, John Piper's like an OG. Like he's like pastor, like teaches pastors. But I'm reading this book right now called Desiring God. And I've been fired up about this concept today because he has this analogy in there. And he says that, our main role, Mariah, is to glorify God. That's what we're put here for. We're put here to have a relationship with God and glorify Him, not, like set wife, mom, husband, business leader, all that stuff that goes to the side, right? We are put here to be prisms and reflections of light for the glory of the kingdom. And when we look at the word glorify, John Piper describes that as like it's the same thing as magnify, right? And in this book that I was reading this morning, he says there's two ways to magnify things in this world. We have a microscope, right? So we can look through a microscope, which is where we take something really, really small and then we make it really big, right? That's one way to magnify something. The other way to magnify something in this world is like a telescope, which you take something really, really big and you look through a very small lens, right? And he went on to say, he said, if we were to talk about God in a microscope, that would quite literally be sin, right? Because God's not small. We're not going to take a small thing and make it look big, right? And our goal in our lives, in our Christian walks of life, is to view God through a telescope, meaning to try to grab all His mercy, His grace, His lovingness, His forgiveness, and display that in every small part of our lives. The way we treat our bodies, our kids, us together right here, husbands, wives, the janitors, whatever it is to try our very best to absorb as much of this free gift, because it's free, which is insane, of what God has done for us, and disperse that into every single little area of our life. And I thought that was the most beautiful like analogy that it's one of those things you read and you're like, dang, I wish I'd have thought of that. That's freaking super intelligent. Um, which is just cool to like, as we kind of come to a close here on the podcast of like what we get to do in all of our clients now. One of our, you hear me talk about this, Mariah, is our goal literally as a team, myself, B, and Mariah as a coaching team, we are going to love the absolute heck out of you. Like you can get mad at us, you can like get angry at us, like we're just going to love you. And you're going to be like, how, like our mission as a team, guys, is like, how do those freaking people love us so much? Like I'm trying to make them mad. I'm trying to say they did something wrong and we're just going to love you. And the reason that love is the mission, guys, is because like that is what we owe people from receiving the gift of grace and the mercy of God, right? And that all sounds beautiful and fairy tale like until somebody says something that aggravates you, and you're like, I would rather not. But it's like being that the core value of like what we do in and of itself is love is the North Star, and it's really cool to have you along the journey. It's cool to get to see your development. I share this with B all the time. I try to share it with you, but one of the greatest blessings that God has given me in my life is like watching you guys develop as leaders. From getting to coach you guys, still getting to be like a mentor and a friend role in y'all's lives, family role, but alongside that, seeing you guys get to speak into your clients, lead your clients. Like when I get messages from y'all's clients, and I say y'all's clients lightly because we all work together as a team, but like specifically the day to day stuff you guys work with, I'm like, Mariah's awesome. I just got off a call. Shout out to Amanda, one of my one-on-one mentorship clients. She literally said right before I told her I was doing a podcast with you, and she said, Mariah is so beautiful on the inside and out. I was like, I know, she's the freaking best, right? And I'm like, how cool is that? That like to see Mariah come from this place, because when you guys walked into the gym, you like barely said anything.
I know.
I don't know if I'm like probing you for questions, trying to like sell you guys a 6-week challenge, like at the end of the day, you like barely said anything. And now to get to see the transition of that. And not only that, like you still grow every single week. Like some of the conversations you and I get to have behind closed doors for your ability to mentor people, your ability to disciple people, because that's what we're really doing here. We're discipling people at the end of the day, is just really, really cool. And I just want to, pat yourself on the back. I know you have a hard time doing that, but
Yeah.
it is really, really cool. And I know any of our clients that listen to this, you're going to be like, Mariah rocks. So, yeah, I don't know if you have anything else you just want to share, like leave the people with, just any wisdom from your story or of what you get to do now, gratitude, God, fitness, whatever, like freaking dump it on them.
Gosh, I'm like, I don't know if I have any more like wisdom, but yeah, just, I'm grateful to be where I'm at, like just full of gratitude. It's crazy. And I guess that does kind of turn into a little bit of advice because, I can remember being in the dark and just kind of questioning like how can anything good possibly come out of where I'm at right now? And being on the other side of that, whatever it is, I know everybody has their own story and their own version of darkness, but if you stick with it, he's eventually going to reveal it to you.
That's a mic drop right there. That was very good. Very, very good. I love that. All that said, guys and girls, thank you all for listening to the show. If you could leave a review, share this with a friend so we can just share more about Jesus. That's the whole point of this. If you guys are interested in joining our community and working with us, you can send me a direct message on Instagram that says Kingdom, and we'll reach out. If not, that's cool too. We'll keep serving the people we got in front of us. It's all good. And we love you guys. Thank you so much. Peace.